Being asked to define literacy without thinking about the question prior is something that's really tough, but that's exactly what I did to three people in the lacrosse community. My name's Kelson Borisenko, and I'm bringing you this video to give you an insight on the literacy practices of lacrosse players of today. I spoke to three individuals throughout the lacrosse community: a current Division I lacrosse player, a current Division I coach, and a current professional lacrosse player, to take their inputs and what they had to say their literacy practices are and what they believed was literacy. We are here with John O'Derna, assistant coach of the Manhattan men's lacrosse team. So, Coach O'Derna, what do you define as literacy?
Defining literacy to me is sort of using our language to either write or express thought, or obviously read or comprehend what other people are saying. So I think to me literacy is anything that really involves language to express, even if it's whatever country you're in. If you're in Spain, it's the Spanish language, or whatever language you use to express what you're thinking or comprehend what others are thinking.
So now in today's society where it's very electronic based and internet based, do you consider social media such as Twitter and Facebook literacy practices?
Yeah, I think within the definition of literacy I just gave, I would think that those fall under, because they are ways of expressing ourselves. Now, it's a little unique. There are people on Twitter, they get 140 characters to express what they're thinking, so it's not necessarily totally written out thought as much as it's abbreviations or hashtags or shorthand for things. But I would think they're literacy because somebody's putting something out there for me to read and to think about and use going forward.
So now, although when you were younger and you were a student, you probably didn't think about literacy too much in the tense that we're talking, but has your definition of literacy changed as you have advanced throughout your education and your career?
Kind of. I think I would say my scope has expanded of it, whereas I think if you asked me that question a decade ago, I would have a much more simple answer and basic answer. I think that's a combination of being in some ways an educator and thinking more about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. And I think also back to the last question with social media, I think that's evolved. So literacy has evolved, at least in that sense, where it's different now than it was a decade ago, and there's more avenues to communicate and to express what you're thinking.
So you being a lacrosse coach, how often do you use literacy practices in your daily life, in and out of your career?
Sure. I would say that I would say literacy applies more to my career than my daily life. I don't know if I go home and curl up with a book necessarily all the time, but I would say, literacy, again, going back to how I say what I say or what words I use. I think people are pretty impressionable, so I try to be smart about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it, and whether that's inflection or written word. I think I try to be mindful of literacy practices that I'm using. We talk about stuff like putting together game plans or developing a scouting report, or even sending a group message out. What is my message here? How am I coming off to the guys that are receiving the message? So I would definitely say I use it in my career quite a bit. Definitely more than my personal life, but that doesn't mean I don't like to read a little bit on the side.
Wow, great answers, Coach. Thank you very much.
No problem.
We're here with Luke Hansen, a freshman on the men's lacrosse team at Manhattan College. Luke recently won Academic Athlete of the Month. So Luke, how do you define literacy?
I would say literacy is anything that allows you to read and write. I would say it's the words that we can put on paper and the thoughts that we can basically express in our daily life.
Awesome. So, do you consider social media, such as Twitter and Facebook, literacy practices?
I would say definitely. I think in Twitter, you really get to express your thoughts. I think people express their thoughts actually more through social media. So I think um, literacy is actually emphasized more through things like Twitter and Facebook.
Awesome. So, being a freshman in college, how has your definition of literacy changed as you've transitioned from high school to college?
I would say literacy has gotten more important, I think, at the college level, especially because I think your literacy has to be more important, more used appropriately than it was in high school to get you further in places.
Awesome. Awesome. How often do you use literacy practices in your daily life, in and out of being a student?
I would say I use them a lot. I would say I'd probably use them more in school, typing up papers, using them to express thoughts through answering questions. But I think I use them a lot outside of school too. You really got to express thoughts, I think, on the field, whenever you're talking to individuals outside of sports or outside of school too.
Now, do you use literacy more in your studies or on your spare time?
I would say I use them more in my studies. With school, I think it really takes up a lot of my life, a lot of students' lives. So I think literacy is a big proponent when you're writing and doing anything in school.
So, knowing that you're such an academic star, how has literacy played a role in getting you to where you are today? Not only education based, but also athletically.
I think it's been a big part of my life. I think growing up in high school and even transition to college, I think literacy has gotten me very far. I took higher level English classes in high school, and it allowed me to excel and use those techniques in college. And I think on the field, I've been able to express my feelings and my thoughts in a big, broad term, and really get my ideas across.
So, although being a Division One athlete takes up plenty of time, do you ever catch yourself doing literacy practices or performing literacy practices on your own time?
I would say yes. I think I really try to get thoughts across in my head before I really get them out. So I would say definitely.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, Luke Hansen.
Thank you.
We're here with Luke Magnan, defenseman for the Rochester Nighthawks. How are you doing, Luke?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Define literacy.
Okay, define literacy. I think literacy in the English language is essentially the general understanding of the language, of what you know. First thing that comes to mind in Ontario is the Grade 10 literacy test, where there's the general, up in Ontario, Canada, it's a general standardized testing that Grade 10 students have to take, and it's a general understanding of what you know, your reading level, your writing level, and different skills within the English language.
Awesome. Do you consider social media such as Twitter and Facebook literacy practices?
Well, Twitter, social media, you're allowed to use, I guess, slang, right? So you don't have to use proper grammar, proper English, which can cause bad habits when it comes to professional writing and writing essays in school, and learning the basics, and then even the advanced English and grammar. But at the same time, it's also allowing students and young people to exercise the language and use it more frequently, if it's used correctly, I think it's a great tool. But if it's used, incorrectly, and there's a lot of slang, you're not spelling words right, or not formatting sentences properly, you can have issues there.
Awesome. Now, how do you use literacy practices in your daily life, in and out of your career as a professional lacrosse player?
Well, as a professional lacrosse player, I'm also a teacher on the side. But I mean, just relating it back to the social media question, anytime I'm posting something on social media, obviously I have to make sure that it's there's that it's respectable, it's professional, and I'm not going to jeopardize myself in any situation. But also, if I have a caption that's included with it, I want to make sure that what I'm saying is grammatically correct, and you sound professional, and you're not necessarily using big words, but you're not making yourself look like a fool and posting something and it's completely wrong. And I think not only as a professional athlete, but I think when you go to the professional world and the workforce, you want if you want people to take you seriously, then you got to be able to write, read and write at a professional level. And if you can't, then people will write you off right away, and that's just how the workforce is, unfortunately. But I mean, it's also, it is what it is.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Luke.
Thank you.
Hey, Kelson again. After conducting these interviews, it's easy to see that literacy isn't necessarily an integral part in each one of these people's daily lives, with the exception of Luke. Luke practices literacy in his education and as well on his free time. But looking at Coach O'Derna and Luke Magnum for an example, aside from making game plans and Luke with teaching, it doesn't really play a key component, but it is key in getting them to where they are today. Each one of these people is either in college or going through college, and we, as current college students, know the amount of workload that we have to do that requires literacy, whether we're writing a paper, reading a paper and writing a response, or watching a video. Literacy for us plays a key component. So now, when I asked each one of them to define literacy, they each gave me very, very similar responses. They each said it's the way that you articulate yourself and the way that you get your point across, whether it's verbal, and even Luke said just thinking. And quite frankly, I agree with Luke. The way that you think on yourself can very, very well be seen as literacy practices. Now, the second main question that I asked them was, how often do you use literacy practices in and out of your daily life? And they all had pretty much the same answer as well. It was when they had to use it, they did it. Whether it be because of school or because of their job, they practice literacy practices. But quite frankly, in today's day and age, not many people have time to sit down and enjoy a book. As Coach O'Derna said, that he wishes he had the time, but he just doesn't. The last main question that I asked him was, how has literacy played a role in getting you to where you are today? And all of them had a very, very general answer of, it was important. For Coach O'Derna, for example, he said that his senior year of college, he read books because he knew he wanted to get into that profession, and that was on his own time. For Luke Magnum, for example, he got an English degree. And for the general public, when they think of literacy, they always think of your basic English classes, and Luke fits right into that bracket. But Luke Hansen, for an example, well, he's living in that time right now. He spoke about going through the college and how he has to write so many papers and do so much homework based on literacy. So, in conclusion, all these guys use literacy, but they kind of use it when they have to, and they wish that they could use it more on their own time. Kelson Borisenko, over and out.